Conservatives want you to think that a fetus who is pre-viability, that means that it cannot exist outside of its mother, it cannot live outside of the womb, should have the same legal rights as full-grown black people in this country.
Welcome to this week's Wacky Moments of Leftist Extremism. It was a remarkable week when it was revealed that Fredo Cuomo was even more intimately involved with helping to cover up sexual harassment allegations against his brother, the former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, than he previously acknowledged. You know, while a complete lack of journalistic integrity is really nothing new at CNN, they had to think about this one.
I think what's going on here is a little bit complicated, John. You've got media critics condemning Chris, calling on CNN to take action. You have some colleagues here at CNN who were mad at Chris Cuomo for putting the network in a tough spot and wanted to see action. You also have a lot of viewers, though, who love Chris Cuomo and are now ticked off that he's off the air and they want to see him back. So there's a mixture of relief, disappointment. It's a complicated situation.
Maybe if it was really so complicated, it would have merited a segment longer than 2 minutes and 7 seconds in all of New Day's 3-hour program on Wednesday. Because, seriously, instead, New Day dedicated 34 minutes and 9 seconds to reheating some old news.
According to The Guardian, Meadows writes that he knew each candidate was required to test negative for the virus within 72 hours of the start. But nothing was going to stop Trump from going out there, he says. Now, CNN has not confirmed this independently. We, though, have reached out to all parties involved. We're waiting to hear back.
So this is the timeline as we know it with the new claims. On Saturday, the 26th, Trump hosted the Rose Garden event for now Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Few masks, no social distancing, in what is suspected to have been a super spreader event now.
Yes, the illness of a former president more than a year ago certainly deserves over a half hour of coverage during a 3-hour show, but CNN's primetime anchor getting suspended for helping to cover up sexual assault allegations, that's only worth 2 minutes.
It's a complicated situation.
Oh, so there's no need to spend a lot of time on it, right? It's kind of like the name of the man who allegedly drove his SUV into parade goers in Waukesha. Darrell Brooks' name wasn't uttered a single time on CNN from Thanksgiving to at least the end of November. The story just, it just vanished. There was no need to mention that Brooks is a felon who has reportedly expressed hatred for white and Jewish people, or that witnesses report he appeared to be swerving his vehicle so that he would hit as many people as possible. Nope. CNN has no interest in reporting that. It doesn't fit the leftist narrative that America is filled with white racists everywhere, around every corner.
Racist.
Racist.
However, the leftist media are interested in reporting on the Omicron COVID variant, but just not in the terms of how it could actually hurt people with this new strain. It's the important issue that they have to report on: how it could hurt Joe Biden's agenda.
So I would say that this poses a significant challenge to the Biden administration, particularly on the economic front. Last week we heard the president urge Americans to have confidence in the progress that the economy has made. Well, the Omicron variant could pose a significant threat to that progress. And heading into an election year for the Biden administration, which is critical, it could spell trouble.
The variant could pose a threat to Biden's economic progress, huh?
And the progress that the economy has made. Well, the Omicron variant could pose a significant threat to that.
What economic progress is she talking about? Inflation's at a 30-year high. Speaking of high, one might make that assumption of CNBC's Jim Cramer this week after he went on an insane rant claiming that there should be a vaccine mandate imposed on Americans and enforced by the military.
Walking around lawfully unvaccinated? That's psychotic. We have companies that have tried hard to get people vaccinated and now backing down. We have governors who want to be president by grandstanding on a foolish states' right issue, the right to get sick and get other people sick. So it's time to admit that we have to go to war against COVID. Require vaccination universally. Have the military run it. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you better be ready to prove your conscientious objector status in court.
Enough with this free will. It's time for a totalitarian regime to use military power to control peaceful people, all for the sake of the nation. Does that sound familiar? Contact CNBC directly on this one. Let them know how you feel about Cramer. NBC News and all of its mutated cable variant strains really did take issue this week with the Supreme Court hearing arguments about Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban. They just freaked out and didn't really realize how insane their arguments for killing babies really are.
Conservatives want you to think that a fetus, a fetus who is pre-viability, that means that it cannot exist outside of its mother, it cannot live outside of the womb, should have the same legal rights as full-grown black people in this country.
Oh, value the lives of babies and full-grown black people. Oh man, he's got us there. How could we do that? I mean, that would be awful. How about the science that shows babies have unique human DNA from the moment of conception? MSNBC surely wouldn't argue with science.
Jose, researchers here at UCSF say that for women across the country, if the Mississippi law is upheld, more than 20 other states may follow. And at that point, we're probably looking at hundreds of women a day beginning a process of falling into more and more desperate circumstances. That is what the science, not the rhetoric, seems to say, Jose.
So science says having a baby costs money, so I guess you can kill them. Really, that's the argument they're going with.
Women who are denied abortions are more likely to live in poverty, have a lower credit score, have elevated stress levels and anxiety levels, and less likely to have an advanced degree.
Hey, Jose, why don't we kill all the people with low credit scores along with the babies, and then scientifically you would eliminate poor credit scores, because that seems to be what's really important to you here.
Should the Supreme Court consider the economic and financial impact as an undue burden on a woman's right to abortion?
Except that there is no constitutional right to an abortion, except this is MSNBC, a backwards land where you can look at facts, but the feelings you have are way more important.
Is correct. The right to an abortion or the right to privacy is nowhere explicitly enumerated in the Constitution, but neither are other constitutional principles that we hold sacrosanct, like the right to marry. And certainly, even though there was a period of time when many individuals in this country would have voted to ban interracial marriage, or even more recently, same-sex marriage, the court has held that the Constitution protects those kinds of intimate decisions. And that, too, is the logic underlying the right to an abortion.
Except banning interracial marriage clearly violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, so that whole sad argument falls apart. You asinine people. The left has some weak arguments this week, but what might be my favorite is PBS on why journalists should not use the words looting or riot in their coverage of looting and riots.
Very much the feeling among the black journalists at the Los Angeles Times, who frankly educated the rest of us to the fact that looting had a pejorative racist connotation, and that comparing it to the kind of behavior of the police and the kind of behavior that we witnessed really was a false equivalency, and yet it was one that we were making as journalists if you picked up a copy of our paper.
And so that's a great conversation to have. I mean, the word riot is very similar. You know, there is concern that it is automatically labeled as a riot if it is African Americans who are protesting, but it's not labeled as riot when you see the same kind of destruction after a concert or, you know, after a sporting event. So there are words that have that association.
I watch with interest on when PBS and the LA Times will discuss these mostly peaceful protests, I guess. Unless, of course, you know, they really have an agenda that they're pushing.
We're increasingly hearing this conversation about this traditional idea in the press of neutrality versus what some are saying now when it comes to subjects like race, where journalists are called on to speak with what they are calling moral clarity, Norm Pearlstein, even if that means they've stepped from pure neutrality into expressing an opinion.
I think there is some parallel to during the Vietnam period, when journalists like David Halberstam were certainly letting their opinions into their journalism, and I think it was for the better.
Of course you do. Of course. I'm Eric Shiner from MRC-TV, asking you to head over to the MRC Store, where you can pick up some great Christmas gifts and other holiday items. Also, check out MRCTV.org for the latest videos, blogs, and entertainment. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos on whatever social media platform actually lets you see them. We'll be back next week with some more leftist media insanity.